They say a man who represents himself as a fool for a client. Well, with God as my witness, I am that fool.
What's up, my wizards? Dev from the place with the decks. We got something hilarious for you today, and I'm not playing with that title. You want to top 8 an invitational for just $5? We actually have a thing for you today. Well, as I was cruising Star City the other day for deck lists and stuff, just for news and whatever articles, I found that this came in 7th place at the Star City Games Invitational. This is all in Molten Vortex, and you really don't need much to put this deck together, and it's actually got a keen little edge in the format right now, so let's go ahead and check this out. I'm really excited about this one. Before I get into the list, the award for the biggest balls in Magic goes to Joe Effinger, I think that's right, or Joey Fingers, I'm going to call him Joey Fingers for the rest of the video. This guy not only had the cojones to enter this in an invitational, he took 7th place. Like, this guy is winning tiger blood all day. Good job, Joey Fingers. Well, here's the list. We're playing 4 copies of Molten Vortex. We're playing 4 copies of Magmatic Insight, 4 copies of Tormenting Voice. I can put all 3 of these cards up at the same time, because those are the only cards you're playing in the deck other than Basic Mountains. That's it. There's 3 play sets of these cards, or play sets of these 3 cards right here, and that's all you need. That's it. It's Molten Vortex. You usually mulligan until you get a Molten Vortex in your opening hand, but you don't really want to mulligan past 5. You know, it can be done, but you don't want to mulligan too low. Very often you'll be able to mulligan to 6 if you don't have it in your opening hand, and it's right there. If a play set will do that for you. You can't guarantee it in your opening hand, but it's very often and you can mulligan to 6 or 5 and you'll find it. Very important to the deck. That's what the deck does. And obviously the OG cards are just filters, card advantage, well, card selection really in both cards. But very important to the deck, especially if you're digging to get the Molten Vortex that you don't have yet, or if you're just trying to get more lands in your hand and get this stuff out of my hand. Just cycle through cards faster so you can put more lands in your hand and deal some damage. Aside from that, we're playing 48 mountains. It's the deck. So here's the entire list right here. The deck does have a sideboard, but we're running mostly mountains in the sideboard, if you haven't noticed. Obviously, the roast helps us out in our worst matchup, which is against anything playing Siege Rhino right now. But luckily, the decks playing Siege Rhino have sort of curved off a bit. Abzan is not the most important deck in the format. It's still one of the best, but it's not one of the decks that people are playing, especially considering a couple of other decks at the top end right now just destroy Abzan, finally. But the Siege Rhino is still an important presence in the format, and it hurts us a lot. That is our worst matchup. Now, here are your power rankings for the deck. A final score of 52. Doesn't sound like much, and we're obviously low in some categories. I'm not even really sure how to score certain categories, like, resiliency. We're either, like, super resilient, or we're not resilient at all. It's hard to say. Like, if they kill our Molten Vortex, which will, like, almost never happen, then we are in trouble. We're in, like, serious trouble. We just got a grip full of lands. But, I mean, aside from that, there's really no resiliency to be had in the deck. We're just, discarding lands for damage. So I'm not really sure how to score certain categories here, but don't let the 52 fool you. The deck actually has a lot of strong points, which I'm going to go over right now. Sort of some reasons to be excited about this deck, because the more I looked into it, the more I researched it, the more I played with it, because I played a few games with it, the more you sort of start to understand why the deck is good in this meta right now. Well, first of all, the deck is unto itself a clock, Very often your first few turns are just going to be, turn 1 Molten Vortex in a land, and then you just start discarding lands for damage, against certain aggro decks like a Tarka Red. That can be extremely powerful. You can just wipe the board every turn, with a couple of lands discarded. There goes, 2 of your guys. And it's just, it's really good against some of the aggro decks in the format. People are saying this is a 2-deck format, and those 2 decks are Dark Jeskai, people call it Jeskai Black, or Green-White Megamorph. People say that that's the other deck in the format, although it's been sort of faltering in the tournament brackets lately, but it's still top 8s very consistently. And against both those decks, we have a great game. Against Jeskai, we can kill Jace very easily with a Molten Vortex. We can kill Soulfire Grandmaster really easily with a Molten Vortex. And there's just, we do a lot of good stuff. A lot of those decks play 1 or 2 copies of Dragon Master Outcast in the main board. Sometimes they relegate it to the sideboard, but it's always in the 75 somewhere. And again, Molten Vortex kills that before you have to really worry about it. So just so much going for the deck in the removal department, and obviously it's good against green-white megamorphs because morphers, it kills more, Molten Vortex takes care of morphers handily, Don't have much to worry about there. Kills Den Protector after he's flipped up, and a lot of different stuff, It's just really good against both of the quote-unquote top decks in the format, and we see a lot of control decks in the format. The deck is a really good clock against control, especially game one, where they essentially don't really have that many tools against you, and you're leaving all of their creature removal just dead in their hand, The best they can hope to do against you is drop a Planeswalker or an Ojutai, something like that, but you're able to take out Planeswalkers pretty easily with Molten Vortex, and Ojutai, once he swings in, 2 lands, that kind of sucks that we're being 2 for 1 in that situation, but that's why we have Rending Volley in the sideboard. It's specifically to deal with Ojutai, so there is that. But again, those are some of the most important decks in the entire format. And we have some kind of interesting game against every single one of them. Again, Abzan is probably our worst matchup, or really anything that plays the Rhino, or anything that goes very wide, things that play a lot of tokens. But we've got Boiling Earth on the side to deal with that. We've got tools for our bad matchups. But for the most part, we do well against aggro. We do well against Jeskai, very, very important deck in the format. Do well against green-white megamorphers. That's also important. Atarka Red is something that you see a lot of right now still in the format. This takes care of all of its creatures well. So just we've got surprisingly deep game against a lot of the good decks. Well, that's all I got. I mean, this is definitely worth $5. Skip lunch and go buy this. I have to keep saying this. It top-8'd an Invitational. There's going to be people like, this deck looks terrible. It does look terrible. But it's super fun, and it reminds you of like Seismic Assault from back in the day. And it's surprisingly versatile. Well, what are we doing next time? Definitely black-white control. It's going to happen. I was going to schedule to release that one tomorrow, but I had to do this. I had to actually do this. I had to. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, do us a favor. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Especially subscribe if you haven't done that yet. We're pushing hard at 10,000. I want to make it so bad. I feel it. I'll see you guys next time, right? I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thank you for watching, my wizards.